to the mic, your host, Jalen Walker.
Welcome to Pound for Pound, the MMA podcast. I'm your host, Jalen Walker. Thanks for tuning in, guys. If you're listening to the podcast via Spotify, Apple Music, or any other streaming platforms, make sure you also check us out on YouTube at Pound for Pound, the MMA podcast, and make sure you click that subscribe button. Much appreciated. We're 1 week away from the return of the UFC in the first event of 2021. Max Holloway versus Calvin Kattar in Abu Dhabi. That card kicks off an epic week of events with the UFC also coming to us on Wednesday, January 20th with Chiesa versus Magny. And then that Saturday, January 23rd, we have UFC 257 with Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor 2 as the headliner. We'll break it all down and much more. Plus today we're joined by one of UFC's up-and-coming flyweights. But first, a message from our sponsor. Happy New Year from our sponsor at Manscaped. Manscaped is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming, offering precision-engineered tools for your family jewels, and is here to help you have a clean new year. Ring in a new year with the right tools for the job. Join the 2 million who trust Manscaped for their below-the-waist grooming. Happy 2020 or happy 2021. Spoiler alert. Hairy nuts are still gross. Step into the new year with a tree standing taller and shave your boys. Manscaped is here to give your New Year's resolution that you'll actually want to keep. The Perfect Package 3.0 is the best below-the-waist grooming package you need to start off strong this year. Come out of quarantine with clean balls thanks to the Lawnmower 3.0. This waterproof and skin-safe trimmer will reduce nicks to your two best friends. The third-generation trimmer even has a light to shine the light to the promised land 2021 looks to be. It's also time to freshen up down there in the new year. The Crop Preserver is an anti-chafing ball deodorant and moisturizer. You already put deodorant on your armpit. Why not put deodorant on the smelliest part of your body? And for on-the-go freshness, you'll have the Crop Reviver Ball Toner Spray. Start the new year with a fresh set of testes thanks to Manscaped. Manscaped even threw in their shed travel bag to keep all your goodies stored comfortably. Speaking of comfort, the Manscaped anti-chafing boxer briefs are also included and will bring your underwear game to the next level. Save 20% with code POUNDFORPOUND at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with code POUNDFORPOUND at manscaped.com. All right, guys, my guest on the show today, he secured a UFC contract last year on Dana White's Contender series and recently had an impressive UFC debut with a flying triangle choke submission. He's the former IXFA 125 champ, former XFN 135 champ, former LFA champ, and he also has a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'd like to welcome to the podcast, Jimmy the Brick Flick. What's going on, my man?
Hey, what's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thanks for coming on. Welcome back to the show. A lot has happened since we last talked on Halloween, and I appreciate you coming back on the chat.
Yes, sir. Going good.
Nice. So since the last time we talked, you had your UFC debut, which we'll get to here in a minute. But, man, you had a really impressive submission victory that turned a lot of heads. But speak of that submission, you actually won. I think it's here somewhere. Let me find it. You won Submission of the Year for the Pound for Pound Awards. I think I messaged you, but I wanted you to accept that real quick on here. Congratulations. It was an amazing submission.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Yeah, you sent that to me. I really appreciate it. And I was hoping to get the Submission of the Year for the UFC, but
you were nominated. You were nominated, right?
Yeah, I was nominated.
It's crazy, man. Your first fight getting nominated for Submission of the Year.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. So it would be awesome to win it, though. That would have been really fucking good.
I mean, a lot of people honestly thought you should have won. Like, it was nuts. I mean, we'll get into it here in a minute. I want to talk to you about a couple other things first before we break down that fight. But you're still currently training out of Forza Combat Sports in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, with Coach Leo Periucci. Has much changed in your training since joining the UFC?
No, man, just been able to take more time off work and focus on training more. Um, I train at CrossFit Sand Springs. I do CrossFit 3 times a week. I usually do jiu-jitsu twice a week in the morning at Primate BJJ. And then I'm over at Forza Combat Sports 5 to 6 days a week. Uh, doing training sessions over there from MMA to kickboxing and Muay Thai. And we bring people in to come help me out, work on my wrestling, work on my jiu-jitsu, my MMA. And it's been great, man. Just more time on training for sure.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, it's the grind, and it's paying off for what we've seen. So what impresses me most about you is that you work a full-time job and are a pro UFC athlete. Like, I know your job and your boss are huge fans of you, but are you looking to like step away from working and going fully into training? I know they give you part-time and stuff, but what's the outlook on that situation?
Eventually, yeah, man. I got to get through this first contract with the UFC and then hopefully re-sign for more money. And I want to be able to afford my 401k and be
Yep.
able to, keep that rolling before I can quit my job. Job comes with benefits, 401k. UFC doesn't come with that stuff.
Nope.
I'm 30 years old and I still got to be looking at the future of my kids, the future of my wife, and my future as well. So,
Exactly.
so hopefully we do really good on these next couple fights in the UFC, and we get a really good contract, make some really good money, and hopefully keep these bonuses coming.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, I believe you cut plastic. Is that correct? Is that what it is? That's
Yes,
what it is?
sir.
I mean, that's a. You've been doing that for how long?
5 years.
5 years, man. And they're huge supporters over there. I always hear you talk about them and shout them out. But that's awesome to have them be behind you and be so flexible with you to achieve your dream and to hopefully make this your full-time career one day.
Yeah, man, I really appreciate them. Tulsa Plastic Company. We did a lot through the pandemic. We've been busy putting out plastic like crazy, and they also been working with me a lot, let me off work to train, and had 4 fights last year. So,
Yeah.
and if it was them, that'd be hard to do. So,
And you won all
it
4 of those
was
fights
great.
with a finish.
Yep, all by submission.
Yep. As mentioned before, you've been in the sport for a long time. You turned pro in 2010 at the age of 19 years old and have been grinding since to get to the position you are in right now. From Extreme Fighting League to now being in the UFC, how does it feel having your name be well known in this sport?
Man, yeah, it's been a long grind, and it's pretty cool, man. Actually get noticed when I'm out and about with my family, and people congratulating me and asking to take pictures, and it's a dream come true, and it's only the start to what I want to be able to reach in this journey, and it's been a long grind, and now that we're finally there at 30 years old, it gives me, the perfect amount of time to go get this 125 title before I hang it up.
Yep. Yeah, I'm rooting for you, and it's crazy because like, people that watch Contender Series, there's like a group of people that watch Contender Series that are Contender Series fans, and there's people that just watch like UFC main events, and there's people that watch it all. But I feel like for people that were actually watching the Contender Series, I think we've all been fans since we saw you fight the first time, and I think since this that amazing submission you had, I think that opened a lot of people's eyes to let them know like who you are and that you're here. And it's exciting, man, because you got some insane talent. You really do.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, and a lot of people from the Contender Series, they really hit me up and said that I've had one of the best fights from the Contender Series that they've ever seen, and I really draw them in, and I think that's awesome. It's really fucking cool, man, because I put in a lot of work for this, and for it to finally pay off and get messages like that, it's a
Yeah.
dream come true for sure.
I mean, you make it enjoyable to watch. You make us want to watch you just with your personality and then just the pre-fight, everything that's going on. Like, it's entertaining to see, like, you hopefully get that submission or see what you're going to do next in the ring. You know what I mean? Or octagon, sorry, not ring. So you had your UFC debut on December 19th last year at UFC Vegas 17th. And man, what an amazing performance. You defeated Cody Durden via the submission by flying triangle choke in the first round. This is one of the best submissions I've seen in a while, especially coming from a head kick that he caught from your it was left foot, correct? He caught your left kick to the head, yeah. And you immediately took him to the ground. I think I got the picture right here. Hey Drew, can you change it to triangle choke? It's on the left. Yep, thank you. Yeah, so you got him to the ground. After he kicked, you threw the left kick to the head. He caught it. You took him to the ground, and you guys struggled for a little bit. But what was impressive for you is how you took his left arm and you pulled it down. You know what I mean? And you got him into a tighter position. And then once you actually got him fully locked in, he tapped immediately. Like you could just tell that the strength was just overwhelming for him.
Oh yeah, man, I love jiu-jitsu, and yeah, we threw that switch kick right up to the head, and when it landed, then he ended up bringing his hand up and grabbing it, and I just grabbed the back of his head and threw up that flying triangle, and when we hit the ground, I locked it in and did all the necessary steps to finish the triangle and lock him up, and that's exactly what we did.
Man, I'm not gonna lie. We're gonna get into it here, but you manhandled him once you got him to the ground when you were on the ground. Like just to see him trying to pull away, and you were like, "Nuh-uh, get back down here," and you just kept nudging him and nudging him and nudging him and nudging him and nudging him. And after like 20, 25 seconds, you finally got it in there. But man, I mean, he put up a tough fight. He was a tough cat. But let's break down the fight real quick. First off, this fight was supposed to happen at an earlier date, but Cody got pink eye, so it was moved back to the final UFC event of 2020 with Wonder Boy headlining. The original fight was supposed to be Khamzat versus Leon Edwards, I believe, but we all know that got canceled, and then it just got canceled again. But did you get to see Wonder Boy or any of them?
I got to see Jeff Neal.
Jeff Neal, nice.
Times in my hotel, and I know Jeff really well, and
Nice.
We've been following each other's career and fought on the local circuit before he even made it to the UFC together. So we known each other really well, and I've seen other fighters, and but when I'm there, I'm just trying to stay in the zone and focus on myself, and get the work done.
It was a nice card to be on. It was a really nice card, and you started the card out pretty well. It started the night off pretty exciting. I could tell you were really eager to go straight, for your full power and your leg kicks. But your opponent, Cody, he was ready for that, and you took a few punches to the face. But I know you're the type of guy that likes getting punched in the face. That's what gets you motivated. That's what gets you turned on. So I know that must have put a little fire in your step or whatever. But I mean, he got you a couple times. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh yeah, man. He started off real strong, and like you said, he was ready for those leg kicks. And I like to start off kick heavy sometimes, and he was prepared for it. And then he even slammed me down, got my back there for a second, and was pounding on me. But I kept my cool and did what I had to do. Got back up and got the fight back to the feet, and I could already see he was tired. About 2.5 minutes in, it was a big weight cut for him. His first time fighting at 125 as well.
He usually fights at bantamweight.
I planned on pushing the pace after that, and then we threw up that head kick, and it just turned into magic.
Yeah. You mentioned he got you to the ground. That was the first time you were taken down in your career. How did that feel? Were you surprised that he got you to the ground?
By taking me down, yes. Like I've been on my back, but most of the time it's
from transitions and
like
stuff.
John Bedford defended a takedown on me, so I pulled guard and I was on my back. And
that doesn't count. That doesn't count.
Head kick.
Yeah.
So besides those few things, nobody's ever actually took me down or took my back like that either. So. I never even really thought about it in the fight. All I knew is I had to get up, and next thing I know, I got out, and I was back to my.
I mean, you
pretty easy.
you defended it pretty well. Like it seemed like that happens all the time. It was just like water to you. I mean, the whole fight did. After you got woke up a little bit with those hits, it just seemed so fluent. Um, and as you mentioned, this is a huge weight cut for Cody because he usually fights at the bantamweight. But was the power of his punches more powerful than most of your opponents? Did he have more umph in his step because he probably was at an advantage after the weigh-ins to gain a little bit more pounds than you? Do you think he was heavier than you going to the fight?
Maybe. I think we might have probably been close to the same weight because I put on a good amount after the fight, after weigh-ins as well, especially when I fight at 125. That's why I like to fight at 125 because I'm a pretty big 125er as well.
Yeah.
But as for punching power, I mean, I've fought at 145, 135. I boxed at 141, 143. Even did Muay Thai fights, some kickboxing fights. So it wasn't nothing out of the normal for me. I just, got hit a few times and got woke up. Nothing rocked me like I was hurt or anything. So I felt pretty good, felt confident, and felt he was going to fade later in the fight anyway. And I could have opened up more if the fight would have kept going. But, of course, we hit that flying triangle and ended it in the first.
Yeah, I mean, it came out of nowhere. Dude, like, when you threw the kick, I was just like, oh, snap. He's going to get him. Oh, he caught the kick. And then you just, dude, no hesitation. Like, you immediately just jumped up onto his neck and pulled guard on him. Like, insane. Just the reflexes. Like, it was very, very impressive. Very impressive. There's a reason you got nominated for Submission of the Year by the UFC. But, yeah, that was just crazy. Where was that? So after you got to your feet, I know you guys were throwing punches for a little bit, and then you threw the head kick. But before you threw the head kick, did anything click in your mind? Be like, I need to get this submission. Were you about to attempt like a different submission? Were you about to try to take him down to avoid striking, or were you going to try to keep going with the striking if he didn't catch that leg kick?
Oh, if he didn't catch the leg kick, the plan was pressure. If you can notice, I started putting a lot of pressure on him, and he was moving, and he was worried about the takedown as well. So I'm not saying I wouldn't have went for the takedown, but the whole plan was pressure. And he defended one of my shots. I did shoot once, and he turned off the cage and threw a punch and a knee and stuff, but nothing really got through. But the plan was pressure, especially, like I said, him being at 125. I had a comfortable cut to 125. I fought all last year at 125, and I felt great on the Contender series and went 3 rounds. So the plan was to push the pace, and I felt the fight started out in a fast pace in his favor, So I felt he was going to start fading prior to throwing up the head kick and the flying triangle.
I mean, yeah. I mean, your outlook was almost pretty accurate, and that's pretty much how the fight, I think, would have ended too if he didn't catch the leg kick. But yeah, man, you were on fire. That's why I asked the question, because I could tell something like kicked in, and you're like, oh no, man, let me give him the pressure, and it was just too much for him, and he thought, I think someone brought this up in your post fight conference. I think it was MMA Fighting or someone, but they were comparing it to Jaquan Buckley leg kick getting caught. And they were saying it's like the Jaquan Buckley submission version. But I'm like, nah, man, that's the Jimmy Flick version. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Jaquan Buckley had his moment, and it was up there with that moment, I believe. It was crazy, man. Because this has happened to you another time in your career, correct? Almost exactly the same. I think when you were an amateur.
Yeah, as an amateur, the guy was a southpaw and he was a wrestler, and I threw up a rear head kick. And when I threw it up, he grabbed up, lifted his arm up to grab my leg, and he actually tried to take me down at the same time. So it wasn't really a flying triangle as much as it was in the UFC fight. And then I tapped him out in 35 seconds as an amateur.
Just doing work, man. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. Leading up to the fight, you guys were going on it going back and forth on social media, but you guys showed respect for each other after the fight. Was he a tougher opponent than you thought he was going to be?
I mean, he came out a lot more aggressive and throwing more hands than I thought he would.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to come out and try to wrestle a lot more, a lot quicker. And it looked like he was actually there to throw hands and counter fight and defend my shot is what it seemed like their game plan was. The fight wasn't long enough to really, know exactly how it was going to go or, where we were actually going to be able to see who was better where. I felt he started out a little strong, and I felt like he would have wore down, and I started to push the pace, and then the flying triangle came, so really didn't get to see much. But he was strong for 125 for sure, though.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't stun you, but he made you step back a little bit with some of those punches. But yeah, man, I was kind of stepped back, and I was kind of surprised that he was coming that quick because I didn't think of him as that type of fighter. But, man, he brought the heat at first, but it kind of backfired on him. But that's how it goes. That's how it goes. So, as a flyweight, I'd like to talk to you about the Figueiredo versus Moreno fight at UFC 256. We gave it Fight of the Year. It was nominated for Fight of the Year by the UFC. As a flyweight, do you agree that it was one of the greatest flyweight bouts of all time?
Oh, yeah. Most definitely, and I think it was also a draw with the champ losing a point. It was a draw in my eyes for sure. So I'm glad the fight's going to happen again. And that was the week before my fight, and they got, fight of the night and $50,000. And then the week after, I got, submission of the night or performance of the night, whatever they want to call it.
Yeah, you're
$50,000.
Yeah.
So we're keeping the flyweight division up there,
sir.
Showing them not only is it back, but we're coming for them bonuses as well.
And you guys are here to stay. It's just crazy to think the flyweight division was almost taken out. What do you think about the toughness from Brandon Moreno? He really stepped up. He didn't back down from Figueiredo, and he came to play, man. Like, that boy can swing. And he looks wildish when he swings, you know what I mean? He looks like he's going all over the place, but he's so accurate with some of his punches, and that's what I think makes him deadly because you can't predict where he's coming from because he's swinging with his shoulders, man, and he got some serious power, and he stunned Figueiredo in that fourth round. I'm telling you, that fourth round was one of the greatest fourth rounds in all of UFC I've seen in a very, very, very long time. They were going at it. That was insane. But what do you think? Do you think he has a shot at beating Figueiredo next time?
Honestly, I think it'll work out in Figueiredo's favor with a full camp. I think he had a bigger, harder weight cut, turning around 3 weeks later and defending his title. So I think with the fight camp, he will actually do a lot better. And without the point deduction, I think he would have won the fight, even though he started to fade. I think Brandon's cover-up and his cover-up was amazing. He covered up very well, took the shots very well, and he was throwing back well. I think if he could have done more with the takedowns, he could have pulled out that decision.
Oh, 100%.
He did get a few of them. He just didn't secure them. So I think if they work on that and, mix in more wrestling to get the champ more tired.
Exactly.
I think it'll work out in his favor next time, but I think the champ will win the next fight.
Yeah, and I think the point deduction from Figueiredo was 100% agreeable by most people. If you think about it, and the fact is, by taking a point or from him, you got to factor in how Moreno can go on from that. Like, he got hit hard. You know what I mean? Like, that wasn't just a growing kick. Like, that was a growing shotgun. Like, that put that man to the ground. He was coughing. He was almost coughing up blood. And he stood back up and went with it. So I think the referee, I forgot who it was, but did an amazing job because without that point Figueiredo wins that fight. Moreno might not get the rematch. So it's a huge, that literally determined the whole fight, and I think it's justified. And I do want to, you said Figueiredo would do better with a full camp. I do want to point out, I don't know if you know this, Moreno did fight on the same card Figueiredo fought on 3 weeks before that, or 2 weeks. Yeah, I just wanted to put that. So he had the same camp too as Figueiredo. So 2 incredible athletes to come out in 21, 22 days, I think it was, in a fight back to back like that, and to put on a performance of the year like that. Just hats off to both of them. Another question about Figueiredo. Do you think you could submit Figueiredo? I have to ask. I had to ask.
Oh yeah, I think I can submit any flyweight in the UFC or any flyweight in the world. So
yeah, I think that'd be an incredible battle. I think that'd be a beautiful Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu dance on the mat. I think that would be sick. I think he would actually give you a little bit of competition, and I don't think he would let you submit him that quick. But I think I don't know what would happen, to be honest with you, man. Now that would be a good fight. But another good fight I was thinking of. I was just thinking about this last night. I think your next fight should be against Jordan Espinoza. He's ranked number 14th. He's got the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu background. He has some incredible submission wins. So I think to get you that first fight, to get into that top 15, I think Jordan Espinoza would be an outstanding match for you. I think that would be so entertaining just to see you both just go at it and look for those submissions, or even stand up, because you guys both have a decent stand-up game. What do you think about that?
Oh yeah, 100%. I agree. But he's matched up with Tim Elliott.
Oh, right, he's going against Tim Elliott?
Yeah.
When is that fight happening?
March 6th now, I believe. It was actually supposed to happen in January or February. But
he's fighting on the March 6th card? Dude,
I believe so. It got moved to that card because somebody tagged me and Tim Elliott in a thing on Twitter. And Tim Elliott said he would love to fight me, but he's fighting Jordan Espinoza.
That was another person I was going to say I would love to see you fight, Tim Elliott, because he's 13th, I think. I think he's 12th or 13th, something like that.
We want them all, man. But it's up to the UFC. If the UFC, wants me to, fight another guy that's a newcomer, or, get a couple wins and pad me up, get a better fan base, get more fans, start marketing me, I'm cool with it all.
Yeah.
But if we want to make this jump quick too, I mean, I'm 16-5. I beat UFC vets, fought on LFA main events, fought for Bellator, I fought for the Tuesday night Contender. I fought 3 times without fans last year.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm used to this shit, dude. I'm born for this, and I'm finally here. So I'm ready to do whatever the UFC wants. So, of course, I'm going to call for the top 15, but also I'm going to accept whatever the UFC offers.
For sure. You got to be humble. But I just don't want people to compare you to, like, how Sean O'Malley got his first fight against Vera at Ring 15, because, like, Sean had he had 3 or 4 or 5. I can't remember how many fights he had until he had that shot at the top 15. But you've been doing this for a while. You have a decent record, like you said, 15-5, I believe, correct?
16-5.
16-5, yeah, 16-5. You got some amazing submissions under your belt. So I think you should get your chance at the top 15 contender first. Who's ranked 15th? Let me look. I'm kind of curious.
I wonder if it's
Amir Albazi. I mean, you can take him on.
He's booked.
Yeah, and I was gonna say,
as well.
Yeah, Tyson Nam's booked too. Like, you got the whole 10 through 15th book, like, pretty much until almost springtime or summer. You know what I mean? So you might.
I know Cara France isn't booked,
Kai
but
Kara
he's
France,
a little high up.
He's
on the chart.
Yeah, I don't.
But he just signed a new fight deal with the UFC, and said he had fight news coming. So
I mean, if he's got some balls, he'll call you out and take you on, even though you're not ranked. But I'm not gonna lie, if I was in a position, I'm only trying to fight people above me at that point. For Kai Kara
yeah,
France.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's up to the UFC and what they decide to do, and that's what I'm here for. I'm here to accept the fights I get offered and fight and put on exciting fights and make my name.
Dude, in the past couple years, the flyweight division has earned some heavy hitters. Like, looking at this list right now, it is so good to see just some well-known names in this list and some actual good fighters, because, you know what I mean? Like I said, Dana White almost took the flyweight division out of the UFC, you know what I mean? And then that Benavidez Figueiredo fight happened, even though Figueiredo didn't win the title, even though he won because he was off weight. They came back, did it the second time. Figueiredo had an amazing performance. You got Henry Cejudo that was doing great, then he retired. It's just all around, all over the place, but it was just a good all over the place. It was exciting to watch. It was exciting to see the growth, the rebirth of the flyweight division. And I mean, you have to be excited to be a part of this, and going into now almost its prime. Like, the flyweight's never been, you know what I mean, this popular in this I mean, they just headlined a card, you know what I mean? Like, it's insane.
Yeah, man. And my career, actually, I thought it was over because the UFC gave up the 125-pound division,
Yep.
and I was back on a 2-fight win streak, and that's when I ended up going back to 135 and fighting Ray Rodriguez. I would have never took that fight at 135 versus Ray Rodriguez if the flyweight division wasn't told about getting cut. You know, they started cutting guys like Shorty Torres got cut.
Yep.
And, you know, the guy only lost one fight in the UFC. I believe he's 3-1 in the UFC.
Exactly.
And he got cut, and they were cutting other people because they were talking about cutting the flyweight division. And so it kind of pushed my career back a little bit too. But it all worked out for the best, man. It took me a long time to get here, but I feel I'm more prepared than most fighters that when they get there, they know what to be ready for. You know,
Exactly.
I don't have no jitters. I'm not worried about fighting guys with 40 fights. I've already fought guys with 40 fights, you know, so it's no big deal to me. I'm just ready to get in there and put a show on for Dana White and all the fans.
For sure, man. I mean, you've done a job in your Contender Series fight and in your UFC debut. You did a heck of a job, and I think we're all very excited to see what you're going to do up and coming in the future of the UFC and the flyweight division. And I hope you get your title shot here soon, or your top 15th shot. I mean, I expect big things from you. You're very impressive, and it's very exciting to see you get into the octagon.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it, man. I can't wait either. And like I said, hopefully the UFC gives it to me. If they don't, well, you know, make another exciting fight on the next fight, and then just keep going from there.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, if you get a fight, let me know. We'll make the announcement. Good luck to you this year in 2021. Wishing you nothing but the best. And I appreciate you coming on again. Thanks.
Yeah, hey, thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
Oh, before you go, do you want to do any shout outs or anything? You want to shout out any of your sponsors or anything?
I don't have my list here, but I mean, I appreciate all my sponsors for the support. They know who they are. All my fans. You can follow me on Instagram at the Brick MMA. Finally got that little blue check mark.
Yep. I got the link in the description too, also.
So you got that, and Jimmy the Brick Flick on my Facebook, and at Jimmy Flick on Twitter. So anybody that wants to follow me, I appreciate all the support.
For sure. Thanks for coming on, Jimmy. Appreciate it. See you, man.
Hey, thank you, man.
Jimmy the Brick Flick. Thanks for coming on, brother. A privilege to be able to talk to you, and excited to see what you're going to do here in 2021. All right. Let's get into some news, and we're going to head out of here. I don't know if you guys heard this, but Irvin Rivera had a mental health problem. He had some issues with his sisters where he actually stabbed them multiple times, but his family's coming to his defense. The UFC bantamweight Rivera is now in a mental hospital following the events that happened. His sister's coming out saying we love our brother to the fullest, and anybody that knows us, our family, exactly how much we love him and how much he means to us and how close we are as a family. This is reported by MMAfighting.com. We're praying for him in his recovery and his sisters, and I hope everyone involved in the situation is okay. All right, on to Charles Oliveira's manager has come out and said his next fight has to be for the belt against Dustin Poirier or Conor McGregor winner. So, and he's saying not Justin Gaethje. So what his manager is basically saying is he thinks Conor Poirier, that should be an interim fight. Whoever, he's saying that winner of that's going to be the next champion. Or interim, or whatever you want to call it. And then he thinks Charles Oliveira should fight him. I don't think you can disrespect Justin Gaethje like that. Justin Gaethje, I think, can drop all three of these guys. Conor McGregor can drop all three of these guys. Dustin Poirier can drop all three. It can go either way. You got to give them all a shot. Justin Gaethje did just get a shot. I think if Khabib doesn't come back, it should be Poirier versus Conor McGregor. Winner of that fight fights Justin Gaethje for the title. And then, depending on the outcome of that fight, Charles Oliveira will come in and he would get his title shot in all fairness. I think that's the greatest way we can take it. And I'm looking forward to actually see him fight in the higher ranks because after that performance against Tony, very, very, very impressive things from that young man. All right, Dana White has come out and said that he doesn't believe open scoring is a good idea for the UFC. Open scoring is basically what allow fighters and coaches to know the scorecards in between rounds and adjust their strategies accordingly. Dana White says he thinks it'll lead to some nasty third rounds and doesn't believe it's a good fit for the UFC, and I would have to agree with him. I don't think it would be any benefit of letting them know. I think most fighters can tell, but if a fighter knows he's fully down going into the third round, I think that he's right. It could lead to some dangerous situations, and I think it'd be best to avoid those. Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship announces, you guys are not going to believe this, Knuckle Mania. I mean, I pronounced that right. The Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship announces Knuckle Mania pay-per-view on Super Bowl weekend featuring UFC's former fighter Paige Van Zandt versus Britton Hart. Knuckle Mania takes place on February 5th. That name kills me. At RP Funding Center in Lakeland, Florida. The event's co-headliner is Johnny Bedford versus Dat Nugent. I mean, I'm excited for Paige. The name is interesting, Knuckle Mania. It's gonna stick. I've always said the BKFC Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship is gonna be something big here soon. I've been following it since that documentary they did on them on the third event. I went back and watched the first two events, and I've watched mostly all of them since. They're very entertaining. They're gruesome. I'm not going to lie. Some of the fights, they're hard to watch because they are fighting with bare knuckles. But the good thing about it is the fights are usually fast. People are getting put out. So they're not taking too much damage. But I'm excited to see what Paige is going to do. See if she can step up and do work in the bare knuckle fighting circle, ring, octagon, whatever you want to call their setup. All right, Petr Yan is getting his third title fight against Aljamain Sterling at UFC 259 on March 6th. But let's talk about this. March 6th, UFC 259 has the potential to be one of the greatest UFC cards of all time. First of all, like we just said, Tim Elliott versus Jordan Espinoza. Alon Cruz versus Euros Medic. Randy Costa versus Trevin Jones. Sean Brady versus Jake Matthews. Askar Askarov versus Joseph Vitas, my apologies. Drew Dauber versus Islam Makhachev. And then here we go. Here we go. You ready? Dominic Cruz versus Casey Kennedy to start up the main card. Alexander Rakic versus Thiago Santos. And then we have 3 title fights. Petr Yan versus Aljamain Sterling for the bantamweight title. Amanda Nunes versus Megan Anderson for the women's featherweight title. And then Jan Blachowicz versus Israel Adesanya for the light heavyweight title of the world. And that will be the main event. Adesanya, lightweight. Amanda Nunes makes a return against Megan Anderson. And Petr Yan going for his third title defense against Aljamain Sterling. And a well-deserving fighter for a title shot that's going to push Petr Yan to the edge. I'm excited. This fight card is going to be berserker. I hope all the fights stand. I hope everyone stays healthy. I'm praying to the gods this card happens because, oh my goodness. But until then, next week starts an absolute haymaker of a week. They're going to be in Abu Dhabi, Max Holloway versus Calvin Kattar, January 16th, and that's a Saturday. And then a few days after that, January 20th, you got to remember this. I'll remind you guys next week. But January 20th, there's another card, Michael Chiesa versus Neil Magny on Wednesday, January 20th in Abu Dhabi also. That main event was originally Edwards versus Khamzat, but Khamzat had to withdraw for unknown reasons. Edwards told Dana and Sean Shelby that he still wants to fight on January 20th and to close out an epic week, or the fit in that epic week of fights, but I don't think he's going to actually get a fight. But to close out that epic week of fights, that Saturday, we have Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor 2 for UFC 257, January 23rd in Abu Dhabi. Like I said, that's a Saturday. Next week, Saturday, be here, start a Fight Island. It's going to be insane, man. I'm excited to see Max Holloway. We're going to break him down. We're going to break down Calvin. We're going to talk about the card. But super exciting things coming. Super pumped for this. But yeah, nothing else really to talk about. Just got to look forward to next week in these upcoming fights. But yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm super, super pumped for these upcoming cards. And remember, keep an eye out for news on Ultimate Fighter. We'll be hearing stuff soon for who the coaches will be and when the date officially will be and the times and stuff like that. And if I see anything about who the coaches will be or anything, I will always post it on my Twitter. Make sure if you're listening on Spotify or any streaming platform to please follow us on YouTube at Pound for Pound MMA Podcast and hit that subscribe button. We will really appreciate it. And yeah, thanks guys. Tune in next Saturday for Pound, the MMA Podcast. I'm your host, Jalen Walker. Thanks guys.